May there be joy, may there be peace in this world, but we also recognize that this is a time with great mourning, and there is a time for everything. And as we are about to listen to 5 of our seniors give their senior sermons, we remember the losses that they have endured over the past weeks and months, as some are having their last school days this week and some have already had them. As they're figuring out graduations, we continue to lift them up in our prayers and continue to look forward to a time when there is more joy in this world. But we are thankful for the opportunity to invite our seniors into this space just a week ago so that they might be able to provide their reflections and their sermons that we all might hear.
I believe we are shaped by the experiences we have. Who we are is shaped by those around us, and what we do is a reflection of who we are. I've done a fair amount these last 18 years, but what has stuck with me the most is helping others. In Chaco Sente, I watched a group of people with incredible determination create something they desperately wanted. In Tennessee, I saw the strength of what gets done with teamwork. In Texas, I watched how great an impact something as simple as a fence can have. In DC, I saw the strength it takes to ask for help. And in Rochester Housing Court, I saw the power of humility, sacrificing your own pride to make sure your family gets to stay another day in their home. One overarching theme I noticed, though, was the devastating power systemic poverty has. For example, I met a woman at Housing Court. She and her daughter had come to fight to stay in their home. On the lapel of their jackets was a sticker from Golisano Children's Hospital. When I asked them about it, she explained her grandson had been diagnosed with leukemia, and they were putting all of their money into getting him the treatment he needed to live. Furthermore, the grandmother had trouble speaking English and had to bring her daughter, whose son was battling leukemia, to aid with the translations. The Universal Declaration of Human Rights lists both safe housing and healthcare as a fundamental right. So why is this family having to choose between their son's life and a roof over their heads? This needs to end. No one should ever have to make that choice, yet there I was sitting in a courtroom listening to this woman ask the landlord's lawyer for more time to come up with the money to protect her home. That woman's strength was awe-inspiring and shaped my experience of looking at issues in our own backyard. They weren't people living in a different country, city, or state, but people that live in the same place I do. People that shop at Wegmans, walk down East Ave, go to Strong Museum with their kids, are all struggling with something as rudimentary as a roof over their heads. We as Christians have a moral prerogative to help those who cannot help themselves. And that was a lesson I learned from a young age. Working at the storehouse and dining and caring center all showed me the power of reaching out and helping others. One Thanksgiving, my sisters and I were volunteering at the dining and caring center. The guests were being asked to write their names on a sign-in log. A man and his son came in, and the father had to ask the son to write his name for him because the father didn't know how. He was slightly embarrassed, and at the time, I was too young to understand the ramifications of that simple interaction, or the many others I had that day. The men and women that couldn't take the apple because their teeth weren't strong enough came across to my young mind as a dislike of apples. The father came across as wanting to have his son practice writing his name. But as I look back on the experiences that shaped me, I noticed again that the systemic poverty was rearing its ugly head. It would be easy to stand up here on a soapbox and share all the stories of the victims of systemic poverty with which I've interacted. And I honestly believe with all of my heart that for change to occur, we need to work together and acknowledge the problems that have been plaguing our society for years. However, I wanted to end by asking you to learn from the people's experiences as I have, and let them guide your actions into a reflection of who you are. So, practice the quiet strength that comes from asking for help, the patience that comes from working in a team, the pride of accomplishing something that you worked and advocated for, the acceptance of humility to benefit others, and the will to let what you see make you a better person. Because I have, and I cannot be more grateful for it. Thank you.
For food, for raiment, for life, for opportunity, for friendship and fellowship, we thank thee, O Lord. Amen. Hello, my name is Owen Cole. I'm 18 years old, and it's my turn to follow in my brother's footsteps, which is actually the staircase behind me. Yes, both of my brothers gave senior sermons, and today it's my turn. The best piece of advice I can get from anyone was no pressure. You're right, Mom, no pressure. It's not like I'll be a representative from our family, or a spokesperson for the class of 2020, or even have a camera recording me that will broadcast me to 300 people nationwide that I don't know. I'm glad there's no pressure on me. I'll be honest, I didn't even know what to come up here and say. I wanted to be remembered, distinct, not just another voice yelling in a crowd. So I thought about everything I've done for the past 18 years, and I came to the determination that I've done way too much time in school. I remember sitting in classes daydreaming, unless you're my parents, and then I was sitting in the hallway daydreaming. But I remember thinking, this is stupid. Why do I have to come to school? God never went to school, and he created the entire universe in 7 days. He was never tested on the periodic table. I mean, he did create it, but he was never had to do a test for it. I'm having trouble keeping track of this sermon, yet right now God is writing 7.8 billion sermons and essays. And I was thinking, every essay has to have a who, what, where, why, when, and how. So in a way, God is writing and going to school. My who is very simple. I'm Owen Cole, I'm 18 years old, and I'm here to give a sermon. You could look a little bit more in depth in it and look at who played in characters in my life. My mom, my dad, my brothers, my grandparents, my girlfriend, my friends, and of course a long list of teachers, pastors, and coaches. What? Well, as previously stated, I've done lots of time in school. I led a group of kids through the New Mexico desert. I've done countless backpacking, biking, and canoeing trips. I've been an EMT in training for 4 years, and I'm currently sitting days away from my final exam. And I've played volleyball, indoor track, and lacrosse all 4 years of high school. Where? Well, I was born right here in New York State. I was born right here in Rochester. I was born in Highland Hospital. I went through the East Irondequoit public school system, and I've been a member of Asbury my entire life. When? I was born December 25th, 2001, and thankfully I currently do not have an end date. Now, this is where my essay gets a little bit harder. At face value, my why is the same as any insect, mammal, or alien ever. I'm here to reproduce. Now, we could just move on, or we could take another look and go a little bit deeper. I won't reach full maturity until age 21, and hopefully I will live long past my reproductive years. So that does raise the question of why. Why is there so much time? Why am I here for so long? And I believe in order to find the answer to this, we have to look at ourselves as if God were to have written a science experiment on us. If he wrote a science experiment, he would have to have a hypothesis. We should ask ourselves, are we going as he hypothesized? Did he want to have social classes so big that it determines your livelihood and your grandchildren's livelihood? Did he want us to discriminate based off color, gender, and sexuality? If he didn't like a group of people, why did he send them here to this earth, an earth of love? Why did he want us to mistreat people the way we do? I don't have the answer to all of our questions. All I have is more questions, like the question that we used to answer a lot of our previous questions. What would Jesus do? And I know a lot of times it's hard to do what Jesus would do. It's hard to look someone in the face and give them forgiveness when they just don't deserve it. It's hard to accept someone who in every facet of their life is just different than you. There's no reason to explain why they're different other than the fact that everything they do is just different than what you would do. But as Christians and as Methodists, we are taught to go and do what is difficult. We are taught to give forgiveness. We are taught to be different and do it even though it's hard. I think John F. Kennedy said it the best. We choose to do these not because they are easy, but because they are hard. How? This is part of my essay I have yet to write. I have not found the user's manual on how to turn off the earth and turn it back on and hope there's no problems. But I have found that sitting here one day a week and just talking about all the problems in the world hasn't fixed them and hasn't made them go away. Your essay, much like mine, isn't finished. So please go add another chapter, tag on another paragraph. Friends, we have all the problems in the world. Now let's find some resolutions. So please, today and every day, go forth, do all the good you can, by all the means you can, in all the ways you can, in all the places you can, at all the times you can, to all the people you can, for as long as ever you can. Amen.
I've spent my childhood at this church. I was baptized here, I went to Sunday school here, I was confirmed here. My experiences through the mission trips, the musicals, and childcare have affected every part of my life and my perspective on the world. I was so fortunate to be able to be a part of the amazing experience that was the mission trips in Tennessee and Washington, D.C., and those 2 weeks opened my mind in ways I couldn't begin to imagine. In Tennessee, we helped to significantly improve the state of a family's house in a matter of days. In D.C., we spent time with a variety of organizations and learned to question our beliefs about poverty and housing insecurity. Throughout those 2 weeks, we had uncomfortable yet vital discussions and became more empathetic. For me, this quote from Ijima Alu's "So You Want to Talk About Race" is a perfect representation. When we identify where our privilege intersects with somebody else's oppression, we'll find our opportunities to make real change. Not only did these trips teach me about justice, they also taught me the power of community. From the first moments on the road to final worship, the togetherness that exists on the youth mission trips could not be replicated anywhere else. I don't know if it's because of the work done or the people themselves, but it is truly remarkable. As well as on mission trips, I have seen this powerful sense of community through the adults and mentors in the church. Throughout my entire childhood, Paula Dugan was always there to mentor me and help me. Throughout my high school career, she gave me the opportunity to work with kids in Sunday school, enrichment, and VBS, and eventually in the child care room. I've learned so much from her about what it means to be a teacher, and I'm so grateful for that. Carol Lamica has always been amazing, always understanding and helping me participate in music, but understanding when it was too much. Lastly, Mike has been a great leader for my time in youth group and facilitated so many great discussions that helped me to understand and question my place within the church and society, along with always encouraging my many ideas, despite the fact that I rarely made it to youth group. Thank you so much to the amazing community for everything you've done for me. I am sure you continue to inspire and change the lives of youth for generations.
Hello, my name is Payton Shafer. I've been thinking about what I would say for my senior sermon since I first joined the youth group 4 years ago and sat here every youth Sunday listening to what the seniors before me had to say. All my life, I've gone to just Asbury First. My dad went here growing up, and of course, my grandma was a pastor here. This place has always been a constant in my life. When I was younger, it was just a place that required me to dress up on a Sunday morning and come here. But as time went on, I felt more and more connected to the church, and now I would say I enjoy going. Even though Asbury has always been a constant, the way I feel about it has changed in so many ways. Throughout all the changes that have been occurring in our lives lately, Asbury has still been a constant. Even now, every Sunday, I come down and choose to watch the service on TV with my family. In spite of all these changes, the church is always a constant for me, and I hope it always will be. I was not expecting to be standing up here, preaching out into a bunch of empty pews, or to not have the end of my senior year or a proper graduation, or to witness a global pandemic and what's happening in our nation today. But what I have learned is that no matter what life comes at you with, the church is a constant in my life, one that I hope I will always have to fall back on. Although there may be no mission trip this year, I am beyond grateful for the other experience I have had in the past years. Washington, D.C. opened my eyes to the problems we have in our major cities, just like Rochester, and how it's hard for some people, and how lucky I am. All of these trips illuminate the privilege I have and what I need to do with it. I've always loved helping others. I have found through this service my connection to that is Asbury First United Methodist Church grows. I have a choice and the ability to make the world a more loving place. I don't know what the future holds for me, but I am thankful for Asbury First and how it has kept me connected and grounded to what is most important in life. So regardless of where I end up, I know that even if I am hundreds of miles away from Asbury, through the service to those in my need, my connection to our church grows, and I will be able to keep my constant.
All my life, I have grown up going to church, and it's always been a huge part of who I am. Growing up, I never really understood what my mom said when she was saying, "God winks," and told me that God was always watching until November of 2017. In November, we were getting ready to perform the musical The Lion King for the congregation. We had reached Tech Day, the day where we would be at church for the entire day to run through the show, try on costumes, test mics, and everything else that goes along with being in a show. We were currently 1 week from opening, and I was more terrified than ever because I was playing one of the leads. We went through the day, and all of the run-throughs went smoothly, and it was time to go home. I had just received my license a month before this, and so I was very excited to drive home by myself, especially that night because I was allowed to drive my friend Emma home, who was also in the musical. As we were driving home, we were listening to music and talking, and then something happened that changed both of our moods. We were driving through an intersection when we were hit by a car that was making a left-hand turn. At first, I was in shock, and I remember sitting in the driver's seat not being able to move my hands off the steering wheel while we saw the powder from the airbags get released. I looked over and saw Emma in just as much shock as I was because we still didn't understand what just happened. I remember her asking if she was okay, and I didn't want to get out of the car because I was too scared to even move, but we both eventually got out and ran over to the sidewalk. We were both shaking uncontrollably and both had a hard time calming down. The two of us stood there in shock, hugging, both trying to get in touch with our parents because we knew that was the first thing we needed to do. As we waited for our parents, suddenly a woman who had witnessed the scene had approached us to make sure we were okay. As we started talking, she looked at Emma and realized that she knew her. This woman was from Emma's old town and was a sister of a family friend of theirs. She explained that her brother had passed away from a car accident previously. After hearing this story, Emma and I both looked at each other and knew at that moment that God was watching over us, and he sent this woman here for a reason, and there was a reason that she was going through the same area at the same time. It was as if a guardian angel was watching over us and taking care of us. Even despite all of this, Emma and I both knew that we couldn't give up being in the musical because our church family still needed us and we wanted to do it. That week, we had Monday off from rehearsal, but when we came back Tuesday, we were both greeted with loving arms and hugs and more support than we could have ever imagined. Stephen always says we are better together than we are apart, but I never really saw it in action until that week when I was surrounded by so much love and support from everyone around. Looking back at all of the years of musicals and youth groups, I can gladly say that some of my best friends are from church and that all of these experiences have made me who I am today.